Episode 109 of Five Drinks to Midnight. You know, the show, we bring the questions, guests bring the drinks, we try to wrap up before midnight. Today, we are talking to the Indiana Jones of the Tiki world. We are talking to Beachbum Barry. But before we do, like and subscribe, hit the bells, the whistles, leave a comment if you like what we're doing. Let's get started. Thank you so much for joining us. Five Drinks to Midnight, 5 drinks, 5 questions, midnight, whatever comes first. This is a true pleasure.
I think we know what's going to come first, and the pleasure is mine. Pleasure is
mine. Thank you so much for joining us. I am so excited. This is a true pleasure, so thank you again. How are you doing today?
I'm all right, man. Looking forward to my first one.
All right. Well, let's not waste any time. What is our first drink?
This is the Caribe Welcome. It's a drink by Salud. A drink by Joe Shalom. You may know him as the guy who invented the Suffering Bastard in Cairo. But after he was kicked out of Egypt and then kicked out of Havana, he was basically being chased by one revolution after another. In the 1950s, he worked at the Caribe Hilton Hotel.
Okay.
And re-engineered this drink to use coconut cream, which had been newly invented with the help of the Puerto Rican government, so that you no longer had to render coconut cream yourself. So thank them all very much for that, because it's a pain in the ass, and I would never be drinking this drink if I had to render my own coconut cream.
Yeah. I don't even know the process, but it sounds terrible. So
Yeah. First of all, you have to crack open a coconut, and then you have to bake it a little bit so that you can crack it open. Then you have to scoop out all the meat and shred it. And then you have to milk all of the liquid out of it that you can through a pastry bag or what have you, cheesecloth. And then you have to add sugar to it. And then you have to do it's just, you don't even want to know. Yeah.
Thank God we can go buy it at the store.
Yes, indeed.
Excellent. Well, this is freaking delicious. So cheers again. This is... I'm sure you are very sick of being asked this question, but our question one is always the same for everybody. It's a little bit of an origin story, but question one is, how'd you get started, I guess, in the hospitality business / tiki business / rum business? How'd you get started?
Well, if you want do you want the DC origin story or the Marvel origin story?
I think Marvel has a better storytelling, so let's go.
Well, I didn't grow up in DC. I grew up in LA, so let's do the Marvel version.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
The Marvel is that I got into this when I was about 6 years old. My parents took me to a Chinese restaurant in Encino, California, right outside of LA, where we lived in the 1960s. And they had tricked out the place with all kinds of really intense Polynesian decor. I mean, there's like a canoe hanging from the ceiling, palm trees woven into the carpet, the fish floats, the aquariums, the indoor lagoon and waterfall, the whole 9, lava rock, the whole 9 yards.
Awesome.
And to me, it was just like, a wonderful movie set. It was like a Disneyland of the mind, and in order to get into the dining room, we had to go through the bar. That was the entrance. And behind the bar, instead of the usual line of bottles or a mirror or something, there was this miniature diorama of an island scene with resin sand, and then a fake water, and then a dawn to dusk lighting thing behind it. So the sky changed from day to night, night to day. And there were little palm trees. They probably got them in a model railroad store or something, and a shack. And they had to just keep yanking me through the bar because it was that was the most magical place of all. And when I got old enough to drink, I started seeking these places out. And that particular place had become a Mexican restaurant, and they ripped out all the cool shit. And but there were still places left in LA. This was around 1980. There was a place called the Tiki still there in East Hollywood, family owned, third generation. Trader Vic's was there in Beverly Hills. There were a few other places that I could go and actually drink these drinks in these wonderful surroundings. And I fell in love with this kind of drinking. I mean, and I think one reason was it just process of elimination. This was the dark ages of the cocktail. You couldn't get a decent drink anywhere, no matter how much money you spent, and no matter what kind of a place you went to. I mean, everything was put in a blender, and you know, it just made it into a slushy drink. Old fashions were served that way. Planter's Punch, I thought for years, Planter's Punch came in a hurricane glass with whipped cream on top of it, and you know, and a maraschino cherry.
Yeah,
Daiquiris, same deal, hurricane glass, frozen, whipped cream, cherry. And martini, God help you if you ordered a martini. I mean, nobody knew what vermouth even was. You know, you had to refrigerate it. You know, it's just all the way down the line. Now, the big exception to this was all the tiki places I went to, where they didn't have the name for it, but they were doing culinary craft cocktails. You know, before that term ever came into vogue in the 21st century, they were still squeezing fresh citrus. They were making their own syrups. They were using premium liquors, and they were mixing them with jiggers, you know, and shakers, you know, and doing all the stuff you're supposed to do. They were just doing it the way they'd always done it, you know, since Prohibition ended. They just never changed that, and consequently, these were the only decent drinks that I had in LA, with the possible exception of you know, Musso and Frank's made a pretty good martini. There were some old dudes behind the bar in the red jackets, and you could still go to some Mexican places like El Cholo and El Chavo and get a pretty good margarita. You know, I mean, if LA couldn't make a good margarita, then that's
you're fucked.
It's like New Orleans not being able to make a Sazerac. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So there, you know, there were exceptions, but by and large, the places I always ended up drinking were these places. And all through the 80s and 90s, one by one, they all started disappearing. And it finally occurred to me that, well, if I wanted to keep drinking these drinks, I was going to have to learn how to make them. And I was not a bartender. I was not in hospitality. I was writing for a living. This was my hobby. I just liked drinking these drinks. I liked going out to tiki bars and drinking. That was what I did for fun. It wasn't work.
Right.
But that all changed, you know, once I started asking bartenders who were making the drinks, some of these old timers, some of them in their 80s, you know, like, hey, Ray, what's in this zombie? It's great. He goes, rum and fruit juice. Oh, okay. What about this one? Rum and fruit juice. It's like, oh. So gradually it occurred to me that, and started looking up old magazines. Like there was a Saturday Evening Post article about Don the Beachcombers from 1940s, which talked about how these recipes were closely guarded industrial secrets. They didn't want the competition to find out how to make these drinks. So nobody wrote these things down. Nobody printed them. Nobody published them. And they just kept them, you know, when they went from place to place. This was their passport to employment. I know how to make these drinks, you know, hire me and I can do it for you. So consequently, even retired guys wouldn't tell me what was in this. I mean, it was nuts. So that intrigued me, and you know, I'd had some journalism experience, so I just started. I mean, Woodward and Bernstein uncovered the whole Nixon conspiracy. I was just trying to find out how to make a Navy grog. You know, I wouldn't really equate the two, but I was doing my own version of investigative journalism.
Excellent.
And then eventually, I just had a few recipes, and I went to you know. Xerox place and copied them out and stapled them, and I would hand them out at, you know, some surfer friends of mine at Backyard Lures would have me make the drinks because I was the drinks guy, you know.
Gotcha.
And I would make this, you know, blue punches or whatever, and people say, "What's in it?" And unlike the old timers, I would say, "Oh, here's exactly what's in it." One of the free little Xerox things. And one of those found its way up to a place called Slave Labor Graphics in San Jose, California. And the owner, Dan Votto, was really into tiki, and he was a publisher. He published comic books, and he said, "Do you want to do a book?" And I said, "All right." You know, it was a hobby. I didn't make any money off it. The only place he could sell it was in comic book stores because that was the only distribution he had. This is his first non-comic
so
book.
Cool.
So comic book nerds knew about tiki drinks before anybody did. You know, like they actually started buying that thing. And it was just a little spiral bound DIY kind of zines type thing. And I just kept doing them as I found more and more recipes through Dan and slave labor. And eventually the New York Times reviewed one of them. And I was like, okay, this is weird. I had my grandma still lived in Brooklyn, so I had her go try to find a copy of the Times that day. And somebody told me it was out there, and she actually called up the drinks. The guy who wrote the review, Pete Wells. He was their dining critic at the time. I think he's writing obits now. And she just bugged him for a copy because it was like a week later. My grandson wrote a book and he reviewed it, and I want a copy. And it's like, so he actually gave her one. Like, oh,
That's awesome.
this was before the internet. That was
right. Yeah, no,
you can't just pull it offline.
Right. Yeah, you gotta go.
Not even a paywall. It was just like you couldn't do it. There's no way.
Yep.
But it still was just a hobby. It wasn't paying any bills or anything, and in fact, it was taking me away from work that I was supposed to be doing.
Right.
But the cocktail renaissance just kind of kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And in the beginning, none of the craft cocktail bartenders of the resurgence of the Renaissance in New York, Chicago, all the hot spots, none of them wanted anything to do with tiki, because as far as they knew, tiki drinks were part of the problem. They were just like slushy, artificial drinks, and they'd never had these, proto craft cocktails that Don Beach and Trader Vic were making. They were too young to have experienced those places back in the day. So the books, I think, helped those two parallel tracks eventually converge, tiki and craft cocktails. And by 2009, 2010, you had neo craft cocktail tiki bars opening up, San Francisco, Chicago, and eventually New York. So, it was all good. It was like this planets lined up, harmonic convergence. And I started getting invited to cocktail festivals to talk. And then eventually it just sort of took over my life, so.
That's awesome. Because, you talked about your day job, but your day job is you were a filmmaker, correct? Like you worked in the film industry and for Disney, correct? Like that.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't as grandiose and dramatic an exit as saying, I've had it with Hollywood, I'm going to do cocktails now. Hollywood actually kind of had it with me. I was kind of aging out. I wasn't getting anywhere in the career. I had a good run, good 9-year run that paid for all my drinks.
Sure.
And paid for the books and everything. But, it was, I saw the writing on the wall eventually. And Mrs. Bum and Ian Kay and I just eventually could leave LA and ended up in New Orleans and eventually opened up Latitude.
Question 2, drink 2. What are we drinking?
We are drinking a straight pour of Hamilton Beachbum Berry. Hey, you got one too. I'll just let you hold that up. Hamilton Beachbum Berry's Navy Grog Rum Blend.
Excellent.
And we're just drinking it not in a Navy Grog, but just on its own.
Now, not question 2, but a lot of the research that we've done on, like you talk about how you're a rum guy, but you're not like a rum collector. You're not really like, you don't have a specific favorite rum, but what made you want to partner and have your own rum?
Well, it was actually Ed Hamilton's idea. I mean, Ed, we became pals a long time ago on the cocktail festival circuit, lecturing about various things. And he would come into Latitude and he would usually ask me, as one of many people he asked, I'm working on such and such. I'm working on like an allspice liqueur. Will you taste it and give me your notes? I'm working on a white rum. Will you taste it? What are you looking for in a white rum? And then he said, do you want to put your name on a cask or a bottle, just like Beachbum Berry's Jamaican rum or something like that, Hamilton Jamaican rum, or what have you, like a lot of places do. I mean, a lot of bars do that, and a lot of mix all star tenders and all that.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was kind of a ego trip. It's not your rum. It's just a cask that you picked.
Yep.
Or he blended it and you gave it your okay. So I said, well, if this is something that's going to be sold, why don't we do what Trader Vic did? I mean, I was basically ripping off the Trader. As we all know, he invented the Mai Tai. And one of the things he did when the Mai Tai went viral and became kind of the it drink of the Kennedy era was he's like, well, okay, you got to use Martinique rum and you got to use a good dark Jamaican rum, and many people can't find those. In one store or
Sure,
anywhere
sure.
they'll drive an hour at a time. So what he did is he came up with a blend, a Mai Tai rum blend called Trader Vic's Mai Tai rum, and he sold it. And it says this is a single bottle pour. I mean, you just pour 2 ounces of this and then 2 ounces of my Mai Tai mix, and Bob's your uncle, and I'm even richer than I was before. Um, but so he did that for the Mai Tai, and he did that for the Navy Grog. And the Navy Grog rum he came up with was just gorgeous. It was and you could drink them on their own. I mean, they were really, really good blends. He was not
Nice.
an untalented guy. In fact, kind of a genius when it came to this stuff. But those rums disappeared in the 80s. You can still find them in grocery stores in the early 90s, which is when I encountered them. But they're long gone, and he had never done one for the zombie. First of all, that wasn't his drink. It was Don Beach's, but nobody had ever marketed a zombie rum. And if you think it's hard to source rums for a Mai Tai, try sourcing the three rums you need. It's just like you're just going to go over hell and gone looking for 151 Demerara in your hometown if you don't happen to live in New York or L.A. And even a dark Jamaican's not easy to find.
Yeah.
Like if you can't find Myers, you're out of luck. It's like so. I said, well, let's bottle a zombie rum. So it's all a one-touch thing that people can do, and then they can go through the hell of making the rest of the recipe, like the other 8 ingredients, but they don't have to do the three different rums. And he said, all right, that's cool. And he started, and the reason we could do it, I'm talking about the zombie rum now, but this is the Navy Grog rum, but it's the same process. The reason we could do it was that Ed imports rums from all the islands that Don sourced for his zombie.
Okay.
Well, Guyana's not an island, but the Demerara rum from Guyana, and then Jamaican rum, and then for the white Puerto Rican, we used a Dominican, the same thing as Spanish style, dry white. So he had all these in his portfolio. So it was a simple matter of him sending me, cask strength, unblended, raw distillates from these various sources of his, and then I mixed them together into what I thought made a good zombie blend. And same process for the Navy Grog. And then I would send him, I'd tell him what to mix, and he would try it on the other coast, and we'd go back and forth. And eventually, long story short, after I spent a lot of time face planted on my kitchen floor, because we were dealing with like a really high proof, that's 160, 170 proof. This is like gnarly shit. So I was like, I'd try 1 or 2 passes, and then I would just pass, and that would be the end of it. Hopefully my notes were good, So the process took a while. It took a while. But eventually we got it and bottled it, and it was kind of a hit for people. And not only was it now easier for people to make a zombie at home, but or a Navy Grog for the Navy Grog thing, which was the same process. It was the second time, so it went a little faster because I knew what I was getting into.
Gotcha.
But there were several parameters we wanted to hit to make it attractive to people. And yes, for consumers, okay, now I have to just buy this one bottle. And also for consumers, in addition to convenience, there was the cost factors. Like this rum is so strong, the Navy Grog rum is at Navy strength, and the zombie rum, which we'll get to later, is even higher. But it still captures the essence of those 3 rums mixed together in a more concentrated form because it's higher proof. There's higher ABV, less water in the bottle, more concentrated rum flavor, so you use less of it.
Nice.
So instead of having to pour out 4.5 ounces of 3 rums, which is what Don did, you just pour out 2 ounces of this concentrated zombie blend, and you get the same effect.
Nice.
But the bottle lasts longer, and maybe you last a little longer too.
Yeah, you're not planted on your kitchen floor. So.
Bartenders in a lot of states legally cannot marry bottles in the well. Like for example, if you want to serve a zombie and you want to get it to your customers quick enough, you're going to have to make a zombie blend in one bottle, have it in the well, and pour that out. That's one touch. And legally, you can't do that in a lot of states. But if you have the zombie blend, you can. I mean, there it is in the well, and you haven't broken any laws. So that was another thing, And then the last thing was, I mean, I'm sure you're the same way as me. I mean, we're all spirits people are the same. It's like, even if this was specifically designed to go into cocktails, when you buy a bottle and you open it up, you're going to try it neat. And
Of
the
course.
first impression is everything, and it has to be good neat. So that was another thing. It's another note it had to hit. It's like it can't just work in the drink; it has to be good neat. So this is why we're drinking the Navy Grog neat, because I think it works. You know, especially with a rock on it.
Yeah, it smells amazing. So again, I saving this to crack it open with you. So like again,
Cheers.
cheers. So one of the things that I really kind of find funny is that everybody always wants to talk to you about rum, but you're like, I'm not a rum guy. I'm a
Yeah.
cocktail guy, which I really that. I just found that kind of fascinating a little bit that you're like, oh, I'm a cocktail guy. I'm not a.
You're
just
right,
a rum
Tim.
guy.
I mean, I didn't come at this from. I mean, a lot of people get into cocktails. They start off with spirits. I got into cocktails first, as we know from the first question, and then I had to figure out what was in them, and then I had to learn that it's not just rum. It's this kind of rum. It's that kind of rum. It's the other kind of rum. It's the two or three of them blended together that give you that specific taste, and that's how I came at it backwards. I've been to a lot of distilleries in a lot of different countries, and I failed chemistry in high school, and I got to tell you, it still hasn't penetrated. I still don't get it. The whole process of the mash and the stills and the hearts and tails and all. It never sank in. It's just like it's always. Does it work in a planter's? That's all I need to know. But people ask me these questions about pot versus column, this, that, and it's like, yeah, man, that's what the internet's for.
Yeah, you're asking the wrong dude.
That's Google.
All right. Well, speaking of drinks, so we reached out for question 2. We tried to get some of your friends that our mutual acquaintances we have to get a little question for you. Yeah, well, I was gonna say you actually have really good friends because no one responded. Only one person responded back.
Sounds like my friends.
Tiki Adam wanted to know. He wanted to know if you could tell us the story of you, Trader Vic, and the story behind the Eastern Sour or the London Sour.
Oh yeah, well, Trader Vic. The more I studied Trader Vic's recipes, and he was the only guy, by the way, to actually publish them. Don Beach never published his in his lifetime. Other people kept them very close. But Trader Vic was so rich by the time he retired, or he was still working in 1972, but he thought, hey, the hell with it. I've got 20 restaurants. I'm fine. I'm going to publish my recipes. And that's when he published all of his signature drinks were in the 1972 Bar Guide, I believe. And when you study those drinks and you see what's going on, and you've been to the restaurant and drunk his menu, you see how shrewd he was about inventory. He only had like 4 rums behind his bar for mixing. And he kept his inventory down. Like there was a lot of repetition. Like, for example, the Mai Tai, that construct, lime, curacao, orgeat, Martinique, and Jamaican rums, he would have that exact same recipe, put in white Puerto Rican rum instead of that rum blend and call it the Manahuni juice. And then he had virtually the same recipe, put tequila in it and called it Pinky Gonzalez. And he had that exact same recipe and would put bourbon in it and it's a honey. So he kept his inventory down. He would just variations.
Right.
The Scorpion, not too much different from a passion fruit drink that was served in a bowl like that. And so he did the same thing with a drink that was originally called the Eastern Sour. And it's basically the trader's slight embellishment on a whiskey sour. Whiskey sour is lemon, sugar, and bourbon, right? So this was, the Eastern Sour was bourbon, lemon, and orange, and also a little orgeat. And some simple. So again, it's got that Mai Tai vibe going on. Now, if you put rum in that exact same recipe instead of bourbon, you have the Trader Vic punch. So he's that's he was all about that. So, yeah.
Sure. I mean,
So I believe if you, the same drink, I get these two mixed up, but it would make more sense if the Eastern Sour was Scotch and the Western Sour was bourbon. But different restaurants had different things, So,
sure.
it was the typical thing in these restaurants in the mid-century was an Eastern Sour, Western Sour. One had bourbon, one had Scotch. Because not everybody back then was a rum drinker. I mean, a lot of people were whiskey and gin drinkers, and they had to cater to those people. So to get back to Tiki Adams' question, he has the Eastern Sour, and we're just going to say bourbon because I don't want to look it up.
Yeah, man. That's fine. I think he did. I think he said, one of them was bourbon and one of them was Scotch. So,
anyway, that must be it then, because he opens a restaurant in London in the early 1960s, and he needed a signature drink. So he had a drink called the London Sour, and it's the Eastern Sour with Scotch instead of bourbon.
Scotch.
With a British flag planted in it. It's a cool garnish. Yeah.
Excellent.
And he opens up a restaurant in Munich in the 70s, and he needs a signature drink. How about a Munich Sour? It's got Asbach Uralt brandy as the base instead of bourbon or Scotch. Same recipe. Opens up a place in Tokyo in the Nootani Hotel in the 70s. Well, we need a Tokyo Sour. Japanese whiskey in place of the bourbon. And so that's how that drink was like all over the world. It's just different.
That's awesome. So there you go. Trader Vic was the original kind of riffer of like the modern classic. He just kept changing out the spirit and calling it something else.
He was one of the first people to really believe in recycling. Yes, absolutely. Especially his own material. Yeah.
Freaking awesome. I love it. Well, this is freaking awesome because again, I just do a quick second pour of this, but this is really freaking good. But you just released, speaking of Orgeat, and you have an Orgeat and a Falernum out.
Speaking of Tiki Adam, a.k.a. to his family, Adam Colasar, lives in Brooklyn and has a little boutique operation making syrups for bars in New York. And when we first opened Latitude in 2014, he contacted me and said, "Hey, can I do an Orgeat for you?" And I said, "Fuck yeah, I don't want to make Orgeat. It's almost as hard as coconut cream. I don't want to do that." And they're like, "Please do." So we went back and forth about what it should be like, and I knew that basically it was all about the Mai Tai. And I knew that when we opened Latitude, the two things I knew from making the rounds at cocktail festivals, going to cocktail bars, and it was rum people were going to come in and order a daiquiri and test us on our daiquiri. And Tiki people were going to come in and test us on our Mai Tai. So those two drinks, I spent more time specking out those two drinks than any other drink. So thank you, Adam, for volunteering to do an Orgeat, because he did an Orgeat specifically tailored to making the best version of a Trader Vic's Mai Tai that we could make. And he did it, and it's all natural stuff, no high fructose corn syrup and no artificial stuff, and it's delicious, and we pour the hell out of it. And it's available retail through his site, orgeatworks.com. He used to sell it on Amazon. I don't know if he's still doing that, but he just, for a while, he had to find a college for his daughter. He spent the summer trying to get his daughter placed in school and doing all kinds of other stuff, and he had to find another kitchen. Finally, he's back up and running, and all those back orders are going to be filled. Nice. And but he has not only did he do an Orgeat for us, he did a Falernum for us, because that's another thing I want to do. That's even harder than an Orgeat. That's Orgeat plus all these other flavors, So and he did it great, and we're using that, and that's also got a retail bottle. And third thing that he suggested was, let's do a Mai Tai mix for people who are primarily, like, if you're, for example, ironically, if you're in Hawaii on vacation and you're in your hotel and they make a crappy Mai Tai, it's like, you want a Mai Tai on your hotel balcony, what are you going to do? In this case, if you take a bottle of Adam's Mai Tai mix, which is this is all him. I don't even know the recipe. It's all him. It's like just back in the old days, right? You put it Adam, spices and sugar, it's like that. So he came up with the idea of what if we could come up with a mix that not only has the orange curacao flavor and the orgeat, but also through whatever the hell he does, whether it's smoked wood chips or whatever the hell, has the flavor of a good Martinique and Jamaican rum. So all you need is to go to an ABC store in Waikiki or 7-Eleven in Albuquerque, New Mexico, or wherever you are. The only thing you need to do wherever you are is go get a lime and a bottle of like white Puerto Rican rum. The Mai Tai mix was designed to be poured with a white Puerto Rican rum, the most basic rum in the world. It doesn't really work that well if you use better rums, because the thing it was designed to do was to take a lime and a white Puerto Rican rum and give you the sensation of drinking a Mai Tai with that Martinique flavor and the Jamaican molassesiness and everything else. And he did it. And we have it on our menu. It's the easiest drink we make. We just pour some of his mix in with lime juice and soda, and it's like, done. The soda's for the lime juice and soda's for it makes a great virgin Mai Tai, non-alcoholic Mai Tai.
Okay.
Mai Tai, we only use the mix for that. We make our scratch Mai Tais, there. But the mix makes a great virgin Mai Tai. You can't get those flavors any other way. It's like.
All right. So, question 3, drink 3. What are we drinking?
We are drinking an Ancient Mariner. So,
cheers. Oh.
This is the end result of a years-long attempt to reproduce the lovely taste of Trader Vic Navy Grog, which is one of the first tiki drinks I ever had legally at Trader Vic's in Beverly Hills. Instead of doing my laundry, I went and had a drink there. And,
nice.
Making $135 a week is just ridiculous. But I loved the Trader Vic Navy Grog. And I was like, what the hell is in this drink? Why does it taste so good? I could not parse any of the flavors. And it was like years of being, self-taught stuff and being helped along. And when I met Anine, Mrs. Bum, she had been a bartender. She really, she could figure it out. And then I finally got Trader Vic's old 1970 book in a used bookstore, and he was no help. The recipe in the Trader Vic's 1972 bar guide is 3 ounces of Trader Vic Navy Grog rum and 3 ounces of Trader Vic Navy Grog mix. So it's like, thank you, Vic. This you really cracked that one for me. He did have an alternate. He said, or he specified an ounce of Demerara rum, an ounce of white Puerto Rican, an ounce of dark Jamaican, and then 3 ounces Trader Vic's Navy Grog mix. And it's like, oh, well, now I know what the rums are anyway, So, and then it was like, just a very pleasurable, years-long discovery process of going to this place or that place or meeting this person or that person who kind of knew one thing or another thing. And then finding the Esquire bar guide from 1956, which published a recipe from the Chicago Down the Beachcombers, where they had the same rum blend, and then they said simple syrup, and then they had a 3/4 lime and 3/4 lemon. It's like, oh, all right. So I tried that, but it was like something was missing. And what was missing was, like, in this recipe is allspice liqueur. Trader Vic had his own blend of, like, I think there was nutmeg in there and a bunch of other stuff, but it was that spice blend that was missing. And I had to learn what allspice liqueur was. And my friend, Dr. Cocktail, Ted Haig, the only other guy in Los Angeles that I knew who was into this stuff at all, he was on the hunt for what they call pimento liqueur or allspice liqueur for different reasons, for the vintage pre-prohibition drinks that he liked to try and recreate. And he found some at a liquor store called High Times Wine Cellar in Costa Mesa. This is what we used to do. We used to drive around to liquor stores looking for dead stock, the stuff that, might help us in our process. So Ted found about 6 bottles of Ray and Nephew pimento liqueur, pimento being the Jamaican pimento berry, not the stuff they put in olives, the red stuff. And this was legend. This is like finding, the Ark of the Covenant or the chalice, the Grail. And it's like, holy shit, this exists. We can make these drinks. Ted could go off and make a lion's tail, and I could go off and make all the other things that called for it. Um, so I bought all the bottles that were left, and there was like $4.99 each. It was dead stock. They want to get rid of it. They probably found it in their basement, and just, what the hell is this? Bargain basement. So I took a bottle to one of the old tiki bartenders who was still working, Tony Ramos. He was working at a place called Madame Wu's, a Chinese restaurant, and he had most of Don Beach's greatest hits on his little cocktail menu, including a Navy grog. So I gave him a bottle. I said, "Here, Tony, what do you do with this?" And he goes, "Oh my God!" And he was all happy, and he made me a Navy grog, and then he took the bottle upside down, and he put his very sanitary. He put his thumb over the thing, and just like little drops came out, little drips and drabs. And then I tried the drink, and I was like, "Boom! That's it. That's what it is. It's allspice." And the weird thing was, I took a bottle to the Tiki Tea, and it was either Ray or Mike, his son, Mike Boone, and they said, "Wow, I haven't seen this stuff in years." And I ordered a Navy grog just to see what he'd do. And he took the bottle, turned it upside down, put his thumb over it, and then put like a few drops over it. It's like, holy crap! This is amazing. Same thing. Two different people across town who didn't know each other. It's just like so that was kind of the big revelation. And so the Ancient Mariner was my attempt to do that drink, get as close as I could to Trader Vic's original, and this is what I ended up with.
That's so freaking. It's amazing. So I think this leads almost perfectly into
by the
question
way,
three. So
question three.
New York.
I'm very proud of the Little Mariner, especially because one of your other guests, Robert Simonson, who's I watched you guys talking to each other. He put it on his modern classics, in his modern classics book, and I was like,
"Yep,
I can die happy now."
Yeah. No, he again. Yeah, we love Rob. He's great, and again,
gentleman and scholar. Yeah.
So question three. So the New York Times calls you like the Indiana Jones of the Tiki Renaissance. You go in, you do a lot of research, you re-earth a lot of classic style drinks, even into your book. Most of them are modern or classics that you have reformulated or reworked brought in. We even talked a little bit, how the old timers keep everything close to their chest, and like even Don had a code, if you will, is there still a white whale that's out there that you're still chasing?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Don had a lot of drinks in Hawaii when he moved to Hawaii and opened up his place in 46 or 48. He did a lot of new drinks on his menu. There's one called the Cannibal Grog. There's another one called the Governor General. There are about 4 or 5 drinks that I have no idea what they are, and I can't find the recipes for. I mean, we've managed to find most of his recipes, but not those. Still looking for those. There are some codes. I don't know what's in number 7. I'm trying to figure out what's in number 7.
Okay.
And little things like there's plenty of recipes that I'd like to know what's in them, and also I'd like to know what they tasted like back in the day. We can try to recreate them now with today's rums and our guesswork, but
they wouldn't be the same, right?
Because let me give you one example. The Nui Nui, the recipe that I got when I finally got one of those little black books from the Jennifer Santiago, the daughter of Ricardo Santiago, who was a maitre d' at Don's in Hollywood in the 40s. He carried around one of these little books because he would do a lot of parties for all the celebrities who came into Don's. Walter Lantz, the guy who created Woody Woodpecker. He would hire Ricardo to come make those drinks for him, and so Ricardo had the secret recipes. Tommy Dorsey, the band leader, he was another one. Anyway, the recipe for the Nui Nui said 1/4 ounce of number 2, 1/4 ounce of number 4, dash number 8. Well, I'm not going to go into how I found out what number 4 was. It ended up being a cinnamon syrup. No, I will go into that. Number 8 turned out to be Angostura bitters because I found another black book from the 70s that just had decoded everything. most of the numbers.
Right.
Not number 4 and not number 2 though. And Bob Esmino, who was in his 80s when I met him in Orange County, California, a Filipino dude. He used to work for the Kon-Tiki chain. He was a bar manager for Kon-Tiki in Chicago and Cleveland and Cincinnati. And I was just like talking to him, interviewing him for one of my books. And I said, hey, Bob, I got this recipe. It calls for like number 2 and number 4. What is that? He goes, oh yeah, that's the labels they used to put on this old syrup company. I forget the name, but it was in Lancaster, right near the LA airport. He goes, yeah, we used to go down there and get that. And I said, well, what? I've been wanting to know this for like 4 years. Like, what's number 4? And he goes, oh, it's a cinnamon syrup. Boom. Okay. What's number 2? And the closest I got to an answer was he said, oh, just use spiced rum and you'll be okay. Like,
rum and fruit juice.
You know, it's like, and I didn't push him because I needed other information.
Right.
So, Jesus, spiced rum. So I just bought a bunch of spiced rums, like, you know, Captain Morgan, Ensign Pulver, all these different things. And the thing they all had in common was they were all vanilla bombs with some cinnamon and sort of an allspice hit. And I thought, well, if one of Don's drinks, the Nui has number 2 and number 4 in it, and number 4 is cinnamon, then I'm just going to leave cinnamon out of number 2, and I'm going to take those other prominent elements, being vanilla and allspice, and put those together for the syrup number 2, which is what I did. And I made a Nui with it, and it's like, oh my God, this is a great drink. Is that what number 2 was? I don't know. No. I have no idea. It's as close as I'm ever going to get, unless we can start reanimating dead bartenders. That's as close as I'm ever going to get. So that's just one example among many of how we're kind of doing a lot of educated guessing as far as these things go.
Well, and two, you talked a little bit about how rums have changed because of import tax and things like and proof and things like that. So again, we're never going to get that same kind of.
No, we're not going to get what David Wondrich has a perfect phrase for it. We're not going to get a whole bunch of pirate juice anymore. And that's pirate juice used to be what these rums tasted like. Really rich, heavy, high ester, flavor bombs. Really, people use the word funky or hoga, or I don't find those to be very descriptive. But molassesy, rich, heavy duty punch rums. You don't get those anymore. And part of the reason is most of those were 97. Myers used to be 97 proof. And Appleton used to have a 90 proof punch rum. And most rums back in the heyday of the tiki thing were 97 to 100 proof. 91.4 was a weird proof for a lot of them, but now everything's 80 proof, everything's 40 ABV, and there's several reasons for that. You just mentioned taxes is one. The lower the ABV, the lower the import taxes. And the other thing is people are chasing today's market, and today's market calls for softer, milder, more refined spirits. So they're deliberately turning away from the kind of rums that Don made his heavy rum punches with, his Jet Pilots, his Zombies, his Navy Grogs. Yeah. And you have to really work to find them, which is another reason why I'm really grateful to Ed Hamilton for letting us come up with that kind of like heavy ass blend for the Zombie and Navy Grog, because that's what you need. You need that.
Well, and then because you said Appleton just released their 17-year-old or re-released or brought it back from the dead, if you resurrected. But again, at $500 a bottle, do you think that that's kind of where rums may be going as a category, where you're going to get those higher ends and be but it's going to cost you now to play in that?
Because of the generosity and hospitality of Kevin Beery over at 3 Dots and a Dash in Chicago. He invited me up there to try that rum in a Mai Tai because he got a hold of a bottle. And the first answer to your question is if that is where things are going, then as mixologists or as people who drink cocktails, we don't have to worry about it, because that's not a rum you want to mix with. I mean, it doesn't. It's never going to have the same heavy-bodied, high ester flavor profile that the Appleton or the Ray and Nephew 17 would have had in the 1950s, because the marks that they would have blended back then don't exist. The heavy, really black rum, they don't exist anymore. What this is a creation by Joy Spence, one of the most talented master blenders in the world, if not, well, Richard Seal and Joy Spence. Those are the gods of Olympus, But Joy Spence has her own style, and softer, rounder, more approachable. And her Ray Nephew 17 is a beautiful sipping rum. It's gorgeous. But we tried it in the Mai Tai and it kind of disappeared. It didn't cut through the way that those older punch rums would have. Now, I can't say that I've ever had a 1950s Ray Nephew 17, but I have had the 1950s Ray and Nephew 15, thanks to both. I had some at the Mai Kai a few years ago, and I had some at Three Dots, courtesy of Kevin Berry. And there's a different style. It's a different style. I mean, Joy Spence has the perfect style for 2023. That's what people want to drink. But does it create a vintage cocktail the way you want it to? I'm not sure that it does. And does it have to? No, that's not the purpose of it. I mean, you're not going to spend $500 for a bottle of rum and then mix it in a Mai Tai. It's just like, I wouldn't, personally. I would just wait until my Social Security check started coming in, or I won the lottery, and I go, yeah, let's break this open. It's it's a special occasion. So.
All right. Question 4, drink 4. What are we drinking?
We are drinking the Hamilton Beachbum Berry Zombie Rum Blend, which we kind of already talked about. This one's a little hotter at 129 proof, something like that. But the point, as I mentioned earlier, that part of the passing muster test on this was, can you drink it straight, or at least with some. I would not recommend drinking this without ice. But I think we've already gone through this. But so let me take this opportunity to ask you a question.
Sure, please.
Because I've watched a lot of episodes of 5 Drinks to Midnight, and you're a very, very fun host, and you seem to know a lot of stuff. So how'd you get interested in all this cocktail stuff? Like, what was your path?
It started. I mean, I was always into whiskey, and the reason why, so Irish background. I grew up in Wisconsin. I'm from Milwaukee. My dad was anti-Irish, and so he would drink rum. So like he would just he was a big rum guy, but it wasn't anything good. Like, it was just all really bad rum. And then so for me, I went the opposite way. I went into Irish whiskey. I was like, I'm Irish American. Yeah. So like, I'm going back in, and like we're doing the thing. And my grandfather opened a bar, or he had a bar when we were growing up. So I remember Sunday, like in the bar culture kind of thing, like Sundays, Dad would pick us up from church, and we would sit there and they'd watch the Packer game, and like my grandpa would lay down a shit ton of quarters for me and my brothers, and then pour peppermint schnapps, because he was like, it tastes like toothpaste. So like, he was like, you're okay, like you're not gonna shoot it. But like, we played like Zaxxon and foosball and pool, and like we'd run around the bar and like so much things. But like, as like culture kind of like grew in, like started becoming 21, like we started doing a Whiskey Wednesdays thing, and like people I had an opportunity to move to New York, and again, very Wisconsin level, and again, not shitting on Wisconsin, but it is kind of what you said about for drinks. Like, there's, big fluted glass, everything is in a blender kind of thing. That was a lot of the quick, easy bar culture. And I had a friend he was in New York at the time as well. He was getting married, and he was like, oh, we hired this jazz band from this bar called Little Branch.
Oh, uh-huh.
And I was like, okay, like let's go. And we went. I was so pissed. Like the first time we were there, like I was so pissed because we had to line up in line, and I was like, well, I'm lining up to get into a bar. And then we get into the bar, and then I had to line up to actually get a drink. Like I was like, I was cool enough to get into the bar, but I wasn't cool enough to sit at the bar and have a drink
Yeah.
yet. I was still had to wait in line to get in, and then finally get in. And I had, again, one of those first cocktails, and you're just like, I was hooked. Like I was into it. I was like literally, I mean, nowhere near as you, but like literally, like I started like an old fashioned. Again, there's the Wisconsin style, but then there's the real
Yeah.
way to make an old fashioned. But like you start getting into these classic cocktails, and like it just started blowing my mind on just all these things. So we kept coming back and coming back, and then we found out that you had to go to Little Branch to get the phone number to get into Milk and Honey at the time. So so like we did that. We got the phone number. We texted Sasha, and like you used all the proper grammar and everything.
I mean, he would answer the text. It's like
he would.
wow.
So if you texted and you used proper grammar, like you like, may I please have a reservation for Wednesday at 3 or 8 p.m. for 3, and then you would wait, and then he would respond back and be like, you are confirmed for 3. Like so, like you went and again, drinks there were good, but like we kind of liked the ambience of Little Branch, so we just kept coming back, and they oversee. I don't know if you've ever been to Little Branch at all.
No.
Well, when you're in New York, I will make sure that we are drinking
let's
there.
do it. I did try to get in one time, but it was too long a wait. We couldn't.
Well, I will make sure that you now my table like so. But yeah, we went in. We kept going back. We started at table 4, which is a 4-slot table. It's a really good table, but it's right across from the live jazz band. So like jazz would play, and then you'd be like, you have to get in your conversation. So they would break. You'd talk real quick, jazz would play. You talk real quick, and jazz would play. And then they moved us to table 10, and that was cool, but it was super far away. And then after time, we got table 1, and that is now called the Mafia table, or AKA the Whiskey Wednesday table. My photo's behind my table. I'm very honored. But it oversees the bar. No one can sneak up behind you and kill you. But like after
it's
now,
the gunfighter table. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're ready to go. But after like 17 years of just modern classic cocktails, it just like you just keep like again, you just do bartender's choice. You let them bring what I joke, it's not their job to come to my job and tell me what to do. I'm not going to come to their job and tell them what to do. My flavor profile now, like just bring me a drink. And so it's very funny when everybody's like, have you had a Monte Carlo yet? And I was like, yeah, I've been coming here for 17 years. I've had a Monte Carlo, just New York now. Just like I love just even drinking like just cocktails. I think that the idea of the mastery of the cocktail. I love taking people to Katana Kitten. Chef Masa there, who is the head bartender and owner. He has an amaretto sour on the menu, and everybody immediately like they turn their nose up. They're like, "Oh, amaretto sour," and I was like, "No, you have to like just try it. Like it's made with Wild Turkey 101. Like it is literally one of the most magnificent.
I think it's based on the Morgenthaler, which is that's a good drink. Masa also does a blue drink there, which is pretty amazing. It's like I have no idea what was in it, but I was drinking at the time. But yeah, I love that bar. Yeah,
that's the great, and that's what I just love this community so much that like I just want to do something to help promote it.
Well, Tim, when you say that you love the community, that means that speaks to me because I spent most of my life trying to make it in movies in Hollywood, and in all that time, in like maybe 20 years in that business, I met maybe 5 people I'd want to have lunch with. But once I just fell into this cocktail scene, in 15 years, I don't think I've met 5 people I wouldn't want to have lunch with. It's just they're just
Exactly. Like,
cool, fun people. I mean, and because I think it's the hospitality gene, right? There's something in the hospitality gene that makes you want to please people. And it's just like the exact opposite of most businesses, where you're just trying to step on people and get higher up. It's like, and I told this when I first got into all this stuff, and I was talking to Simon Ford, one of the coolest people in the world, and we're going to use Ford's gin in our next, um, and I said, man, this cocktail scene is like everybody's really cool. There's just like, it's just so great. And then he said, yeah, wait till you get to a certain level, you're going to meet people you hate. I have, but on a much smaller ratio. It's like so. Yeah.
I have to get to this question because this is probably one of my favorite questions out of the night. You classify yourself as the professional beach bum, and a beach for anybody, like, I think when you first lay it off, is like beach bum is like some dude that's lazy and he's laying on the beach, but that's not true. You have 7 books, a restaurant, an app, rums, like spirits, mixers, everything. Can you please define what is a professional beach bum?
Having other people do all that shit for you. Having Adam Colasar come up with all of the specs for these things, and all I had to do was say, that's good. And having Ed Hamilton go, all right, we got this blend now. I'll put it out. I'll market it. I'll sell it. And having Mrs. Bum, Anine K. Berry, God bless her, having her to run the restaurant, because I don't know what the fuck to do about running the restaurant. She dragged me kicking and screaming into it. She's the one who knows everything about it. She's the one who's kept it going for 9 years. I think the key to being a professional beach bum is just getting the right people involved who can do all the shit that you don't want to do. Oh, also, I mean, most of what I'm doing now is I'm working with Cocktail Kingdom. They've got this Sip and Santa, franchise thing going. There's 50 bars this year. They're doing Beach Bum Berry Sip and Santa. And I'm turning this into one of those marketing things. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it.
No, please. But again, you're promoting.
Yeah, but this does take up most of my time. I mean, I'm not a Christmas guy. I'm not particularly fond of Christmas, but all year round, that's what I'm dealing with Christmas now, because like, I got to come up with new drink recipes every year for Sip and Santa, and more bars are coming up every year, and joining in. We started off with 4, and now we've got 50, and it's just like, okay, so this is a lot of my life now, is just getting Sip and Santa up and running and off the ground every year. So there's that. I mean, there's Sip and Santa which is, it starts like after Thanksgiving, runs through New Year's for most bars. And it's like, I come up with recipes, Cocktail Kingdom comes up with mugs and decor and the menu and all this. And people who sign up just do all that stuff. And it's been like several years now, and it's pretty cool. I mean, I enjoy it, but the challenge is, how do you come up with drinks that A, have that tiki DNA, B, are simpatico with holiday flavors and spices and all that, and then C, aren't totally familiar, like something new, something novel, to keep people coming back. So that takes up a lot of my time, is the Sip and Santa thing. And to answer your question, I think that's mostly what I've been doing now, and what I will be doing.
Okay. And then can we find that on cocktailkingdom.com?
Yeah, well, there should be a if you Google Sip and Santa, you should find it. Yeah. Amazing. Now, the one thing that I will say that is part of your argument, which is valid and I cannot dispute, is that there's no fucking beaches in New Orleans. I mean, Los Angeles, I could legitimately say I went to the beach. Here, good. There's just a lake. Lakes don't count.
Yeah. That beach isn't. That's not good.
That doesn't cut it. No.
That shitty sand.
Oh,
and
who knows what's at the bottom of a lake? It's just like.
Especially in New Orleans. That's where you hide the bodies.
I don't want to know. My feet don't want to know. No, I'll just stay shore. Thank you very much.
All right. So question 5, drink 5, last drink of the night. I'm very sad that this is coming to an end, but we're not even close to midnight yet. But what do we?
I told you that we wouldn't make it to midnight.
I know. Like, I feel that if we continued even to midnight, both of us would end up on the floor. So
Well, like the first time,
like, Mrs. Bum would be cursing my name. Like I don't want.
I think she'd be cursing my name more than you, but yeah.
She's like, "Damn it, what'd you do?" But what are we drinking?
This is a drink from Sloppy Joe's bar in Havana, Cuba, called the Nightcap. Fittingly, our last drink should be called the Nightcap. Nice. And I'm not sure when it dates from. It would have been in one of their like 1930s, 40s souvenir recipe guides. But I thought it was like, and let's dedicate this to Murray Stenson, who discovered the last word, which was a fascinating combination, like 3/4 ounce, 3/4 ounce, 3/4 ounce, 3/4 ounce, chartreuse, gin, lime, and whatever else was in there. But this is the same construct. It's just an equal parts drink, really easy to make, 3/4 ounce all the way down the line, and just meant for a high volume bar like Sloppy Joe's. But it's also a delicious drink, and I have a soft spot in my heart for it because there was one year at Tales of the Cocktail when the staff of the Floridito bar in Havana was there. Anyway, they were there, and I made the drink for them, and it was like a really nice kind of thing. But I think it's kind of a brilliant drink. It's like
it's awesome, honestly. Like, and again, I have to recognize your glassware because your glassware is the fucking killer.
This is a Trader Vic. I got this from Trader Vic's in Emeryville, California, outside of Oakland. Little tiki stemmed cocktail glass. I saw it and I said I must have it, and now I have it. Luckily they sell them in the gift shop.
See that right there, it's a proper glass, but yet it has a little tiki flair to
That's
it.
That's the thing. See, you don't. There's no garnish called for, but you still got your stem. So.
All right. So question 5 comes down to the flip of the Whiskey Wednesday coin. You can flip it, you can spin it, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to answer. The coin will give us the answer. But if you feel that you have to answer, that's more like you totally can't answer.
Well, if
like
it says fuck no, I can still answer it.
Yeah. One side says fuck no, one side says fuck yeah. So like it's totally up to you.
By the way, people need to see how cool this coin is. It's like I mean, really. It's like
so that is our Illuminati coin. So the fuck yeah is everything good luck, and the fuck no is everything bad luck. And again, being a guy that is now currently in New Orleans, unfortunately, I'm sorry that the fuck no has a frog on it, but I was told that a frog is bad luck in New Orleans.
So I love frogs.
Oh, really? All right. Well, I'm very sorry, but yeah, I was told that.
No, man, no, not to me. I mean, maybe I don't belong here after all. I don't know. It's like,
well, I disagree. I mean, you've been there forever, so like it's just. But yeah, like everything. We have a few more coins. I will send you a few more. So, or better yet, when we drink together next, I will make sure you get a good chunk of coins. So, question 5. It's, again, silly way to end the night. We've had 5 amazing cocktails or 5 amazing drinks. And again, this one just to top it off. But okay, so question 5. We kind of talked a little bit about this throughout. It comes down to a coconut question. So, are coconuts considered mammals because they have fur and produce milk?
All right, I'm going to let the coin tell me what the answer is because the logic is indisputable.
Exactly.
There we go. The coin says fuck no, but I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure.
Not so sure.
Yeah, because that's a strong argument.
Yeah, I mean, again, science. So
It's a strong argument, man. They're furry and they produce milk, so
I mean, if a platypus is considered a mammal, but yet still lays eggs, but
yeah,
yet
yeah.
produces milk, and coconuts have fur and
Maybe
produce milk,
coconuts
so
are okay. A platypus, is that a marsupial or not?
I think it's a
It's a
mammal.
mammal. Yeah, because they don't have pouches. Yeah. No, man, I think you've got a good theory there, and I don't think you should let the coin stop you from exploring that further.
I've been holding on to this question, and I thought, here we go, the guy that deals with a lot of coconuts. We have this is a true opportunity.
I'll tell you right now, I will never look at a coconut the same way again after that.
Amazing. All right, well, Bum, that is 5 drinks down, 5 questions answered.
All right, man.
Thank you so much for joining us. It has been a true fucking pleasure. Honestly, this has been one of the highlights of our show. I am so excited that you said yes. So thank you again, sir.
Tim, the pleasure was mine. I really enjoyed getting wasted with you.
Thank you. Well, and again, no bullshit. I hope we can drink together in person very soon. So if you're ever in New York or I'm in New Orleans, I'm coming down. We're gonna have drinks.
It's like what first attracted me to your thing was the title 5 drinks a minute. It's like most people would have said 3, but this dude said 5. It's like, yeah, I need to talk to this guy.
Excellent. Well, cheers to you, sir, and thank you so much. And until we can drink again. Cheers.